The Midday News is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are on Love 99.5 FM. We are also on a number of affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on ATL FM in Cape Coast, Ganga FM in Jirapa, Flow FM in Aflawa, and Jubilee FM and Sun City Radio in Keta. We are live on Facebook. We are also on myjoyonline.com and Twitter Spaces. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. This afternoon, convert the National Cathedral project into a national hospital. Trade Union Congress to government as they insist the project is not a priority and should be discontinued as the country battles economic hardship.
The president has always said he wants to create another Notre Dame in Ghana so we can attract a lot of visitors. But we disagree. In fact, it will be better to convert the project into a national hospital.
Labour is also warning workers would demand pay rise if inflation is not tamed, as they also warn they will not accept any increases in salary and emolument of members of Article 71 office holders.
To serve notice that if inflation remains high, organized labour will continue to demand wage increases that reflect inflation and the high cost of living.
And stay off our pension funds. That's the call from Civil and Local Government Staff Association CLOCSAC to government.
CLOCSAC is sending a warning signal to all forces, both visible and invisible, to steer clear of current pension arrangements as enshrined in the National Pension Act 2008 at 766.
And there's a response.
We will not act in any way to shortchange workers in protecting their pensions.
We'll hear from President Akuffo insisting government will not do anything to jeopardize pension funds. Details from the Labour Day celebrations live from Bolgatanga. Also this afternoon, South Dai MP Roxanne Nelson Dapamakbo drags two members of the Electoral Commission to the Supreme Court, asking that the appointment to the body is revoked over their alleged partisan affiliation to the NPP. And much later, as we celebrate Workers' Day, we'll take you to the mortuary and tell you how some of the challenges they are faced by morticians.
He's a chief. He died and he was brought to the mortuary. The fridges went off. But there were lights around, so they removed him. Then the light came on. Put him back. It went off. They did that about 5 times.
We'll also hear the first day experience at work.
Do you know what baffles me? I don't know how come light off. I don't know what happened, but light off then. It will go. Sometimes you'll be walking and you see a flash as if it's a human being coming, but it's just a body that has been, embalmed and laid.
You want to stay with me for details of that and more here on the Midday edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. And this afternoon, the Trade Union Congress, TUC, is calling on government to convert the National Cathedral into a national hospital, insisting the project cannot pass for a priority and should be discontinued. The cathedral, a pet project of President Akuffo, has been embroiled in controversy over cost, importance and relevance. Addressing workers to mark the May Day celebration in the Upper East Regional Capital, the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Dr. Yaoba, said the current economic circumstances of the country does not support the construction of such an edifice.
We believe that government can lead us out of this crisis by cutting all non-essential expenditures, including the need to stop spending our hard-earned revenue on the National Cathedral. The president has always said he wants to create another Notre Dame in Ghana so we can attract a lot of visitors. But we disagree. In fact, comrades, it will be better to convert the project into a national hospital. Mr. President, you can also reduce the size of your government. Ghana has too many ministers and deputy ministers. Revenue mobilization. We acknowledge the efforts government is making, but those efforts must be intensified to mobilize more revenue. But we want to caution government against the excessive use of regressive taxes, which impose a disproportionate burden on local businesses and on poor people in society.
Well, that's not all. TUC is also warning that workers may be forced to demand salary increment if inflation is not tamed. Secretary General Dr. Yauba is also warning they will not accept any increase in salary and emolument of members of the Article 71 office holders.
To serve notice that if inflation remains high, organized labor will continue to demand wage increases that reflect inflation and the high cost of living. Because that is the only way we can guarantee a living wage and a decent life for the working people of Ghana. Workers on the single spine salary structure are receiving the lowest salaries in the public sector, even though they are providing all the essential services to the people of Ghana. The salaries that are being paid to single spine salary workers has to change. We urge government to complete the review of the single spine pay policy before the next round of negotiations. And Mr. President, we will no longer accept a situation where Article 71 office holders are awarded huge pay increases with fat allowances, while some workers on the single spine continue to receive less than 600 Ghana cedis per month.
And there was an appeal for the completion of the Saglemi housing project.
Please do what you can to make the Saglemi housing project useful for Ghanaian workers. We should not and we cannot allow that project to go waste when many workers who are contributing so much to Ghana's development cannot have places to lay their heads. Mr. President, the second request is about Tema Oil Refinery. We believe that government has the capacity to revamp Tema Oil Refinery. We are appealing to you to use your good offices to change the fortunes of Tema Oil Refinery.
Well, we can now focus on the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, CLOGSAG. They are also warning government to stay clear of pension funds to all incur the wrath of workers. The Finance Minister last month hinted at attempts to include some pension funds in the domestic debt exchange program. But addressing members of CLOGSAG to mark the Midday celebration here in Accra, the Deputy Executive Secretary Kojo Krakani says workers will never allow their pensions to be included in the debt exchange program.
CLOGSAG is sending a warning signal to all forces, both visible and invisible, to steer clear of current pension arrangements as enshrined in the National Pension Act 2008 at 766. He who has ears, let him hear this message. The outcry of public sector workers, especially teachers and civil servants, during the beginning of the 21st century, to be reverted onto government pension under either Cap 30, that is 1951, or the Teachers' Pension Fund 1952, led to the setting up of the Presidential Commission on Pensions in 2004, chaired by Dr. T.A. Bediako of blessed memory. On this day, let us be energized to continue the struggle for better conditions of service.
Well, CLOGSAG is also warning that the association will continue to use legitimate means to fend off government's attempt to force workers to subscribe to a private pension scheme.
As workers, we called for a better pension scheme that will yield reasonable gratuities or lump sums, and we had the Act 766. Therefore, we are enjoined to hold steadfastly, passionately, and jealously guard and protect our 766, which is yielding positive results, so that nobody takes it away from you.
Now, President Akuffo says his government will not act in any way to shortchange workers in protecting their pensions. He's been responding to organized labor following the various agitations on the front on the inclusion of their pension funds in the domestic debt exchange program. He's been speaking at this year's Midday celebration in the Upper East Regional Capital, Bolgatanga.
Taking the domestic debt exchange program, we have been very mindful of its potential impact on the pension funds of workers. We will not act in any way to shortchange workers in protecting their pensions. It is for this reason that government, through an MOU signed with organized labor on 22nd December 2022, decided to grant exemption to all pension funds in the domestic debt exchange program. At the same time, in the MOU, both government and organized labor agreed to work together, quote, to explore mutually beneficial options within debt sustainability limits and to also promote macroeconomic stability and economic recovery in the spirit of social partnership, unquote. In this regard, within global risk management practice, the options should include diversifying the portfolio of pension funds from the current 70% in government paper to real sector investments, including rail, housing, urban transportation, motorways, and airports, as is done by other pension funds. I'm aware that both the Minister for Finance and the Minister for Employment and Social Relations and their technical teams have been working with organized labor and its associations and pension fund managers and trustees to explore these mutually beneficial options. I'd like to use this occasion to appeal to organized labor to work urgently with government to conclude the discussions within the spirit of social partnership and burden sharing towards addressing our economic challenges.
I'll take you live to the Upper East Regional Capital, Bolgatanga, now for this year's Midday celebration. Albert Sori is on standby for us. Albert, I know that the president has been speaking on a wide range of issues, but he's been talking about the increase in pensions as well. Tell us more.
Right, Emefa, the parade is ongoing now, so it's very loud. I can barely hear what you're saying, but one of the things the president has been saying is... Hello?
We can hear you, Albert. Please go on.
Right, so the president has basically been assuring workers of the country that government recognizes their contribution to the growth of the country. He's been assuring them that government will do everything it can to protect their pensions. One of the things he's also been talking about is the fact that despite the challenges that the country has faced in terms of what's going on with our economy, public sector workers have still maintained their jobs. And so it's one of the things that the government has done to ensure that workers continue to be able to cater for themselves and for their families.
On the issue of pensions, government recognizes the challenge posed by low pensions resulting from the relatively low incomes workers receive during their working life. Because government is resolved to improve pension payouts effective 1st January this year, all pensioners on the SNP pension roll as of 31st December 2022 have had their monthly pensions increased by 25%. This year's increase is a significant improvement over the 2022 rate of 10%. And also the highest increase of annual pensions since 2005.
Well, that's President Akuffo speaking at this year's Midday celebrations in Bolgatanga. We have more on that on myjoyonline.com, also on the Joy News channel. We'll stay a while longer on the labor front. And the Ghana Medical Association says until government improves the conditions of service of health professionals, their body will not be able to stop them from leaving the country. Dr. Fred Adomako Boateng is a member and also the Bono East Director of the Ghana Health Service.
These are determined by market forces. Ability to pay will determine where people would like to go. Obviously, do I want more salary or more money? Of course, yes. So I had the opportunity to do a presentation for GMA, Ghana Medical Association at Bolga. And I really did a calculation for what a doctor is earning here as compared to mates in the States. And I told them I didn't want to cause depression. So I didn't change the money from cedis to dollars, and they were all laughing. Look, if you translate the money from cedis to dollars, look, the Ghanaians should be applauded.
Meanwhile, Labour consultant Austin Game is urging government to consider including workers in matters relating to their welfare.
To either decide how they want to involve people and the way not to involve them, what kind of information to share, what kind of information not to share. Inclusivity is completely missing in Ghana here. And once it is missing, people will have to find ways and means of including themselves. And that is the bane we have on our necks. And I want to suggest that workers, by their nature, would want to be obedient, want to be respectful to their employers. And the law is very clear and they know it, but it appears that lording over people is also just to be part of the style of Ghana as a nation.
That's Labour consultant Austin Game. Now, consumers and the general public must brace for a hike in the prices of selected goods as the Excise Duty Amendment Act goes into effect today, as well as the Income Tax Amendment Act. Well, these two taxes were passed by Parliament together with the Growth and Sustainability Act, despite fierce resistance by the minority in Parliament as well as industry. We can hear from President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Obeng, who says they have no choice but to pass on the effect of the taxes to consumers.
We are already overburdened with taxes, and that everybody knows. So to impose additional taxes on us is going to create another layer of cost on doing business, and that everybody should know, and then should be able to embrace when the time is ripe. And as to when it will start, like one writer said, Guta is expecting price hike. You know, we have just started the implementation, and the effect of it, I don't know the timing, but definitely when people started having the effect on their costing and all that, then it will be transferred onto to the consuming public.
That's Dr. Joseph Obeng, president of Guta. Now on to some other stories now. In South Dai, MP Roxanne Nelson has dragged two members of the Electoral Commission to the Supreme Court. He wants the Apex Court to annul the appointment of Dr. Peter Piahene and Salima Ahmed Tijani, alleging they are known sympathizers of the governing NPP and hence not qualified for the role. Some civil society organizations have made similar allegations and urged the two to resign, but they remain at post. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Apawu joins us on the line with details of this. So, Joseph, we understand the MP even wants some orders to be made even before the court hears and determines the case?
Yes, Emefa, two orders. The first is asking the Supreme Court to grant an injunction that will restrain the two members of the Electoral Commission from holding themselves out as members. The second request they are making is that the court should restrain them from acting as members of the Electoral Commission. So in terms of attending meetings and performing those functions that their positions come with, they want that to be granted even before the court determines the substantive case that has been filed against them.
And it appears that's not all he's asking for. There's more.
A number of declarations, but a substantive declaration they are asking for is to the effect that by virtue of these individuals, which he believes are affiliates or have the interest of the NPP as heart, they should not be allowed to remain members of the Electoral Commission. So they are asking the Supreme Court to revoke their appointment. They are also asking for a declaration that their appointment is contrary to law and therefore void and of no effect. And so this has been filed. It goes through the normal process of having a number of days, about 14 of them, then the responses coming before the hearing itself will take place.
Well, that's our legal affairs correspondent, Joseph Apawu, joining us with details, taking us here on a quick break on the Midday News on Joy 99.7 FM, also on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience and also made possible by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. In our headlines, convert the National Cathedral project into to a national hospital. That's from the Trade Union Congress to government. We've also been hearing concerns about the pension funds from Labour, and President Akuffo has been responding, insisting that his government would not do anything to jeopardize these funds. When we return from the break, we celebrate Workers' Day more and take you to the mortuary and tell you some of the challenges faced by these morticians.
He's a chief. He died and he was brought to the mortuary. The fridges went off. But there were lights around, so they removed him. Then the light came on. Put him back. It went off. They did that about 5 times.
He also gives us his first day at work experience.
Do you know what baffles me? I don't know how come light off. I don't know what happened, but light off down then. It will go. Sometimes you'll be walking and you see a flash as if it's a human being coming, but it's just a body that has been, embalmed and laid.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn. No bath, no chop. Where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get 1 drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Haja, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor get water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank get meter for checking water level. That water tank be fine past Kumasi Selenium. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepe. So say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! As my boss, Mr. Poncho go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank! By Duraplast.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Let's do some other stories now. Vice President of Imani Africa, Selom Branche, is calling on the Education Minister and other government officials to stop victimizing heads of public schools in the country. According to him, the culture of silencing them whenever they come out to raise issues stampeding their work is a major setback to the growth of the country. Selom Branche made this call on the Super Morning Show in a discussion dubbed The People's Agenda, which seeks to give opportunity to the audience to identify challenges facing the country and proffer solutions as well.
The Education Minister and the Ghana Education Service should not victimize headmasters and heads of schools who truly do not have the tools to implement these policies or these interventions that you are putting in at the detriment of the same children who are supposed to be recipients of this education. It is you and your minister and the Ghana Education Service that has a full reign in this. However, I believe that you should take politics out of it, adopt a multi-partisan, multi-stakeholder approach to put this problem bigger than your image, bigger than your party, and put this problem at the foot of the nation, so that as a nation we resolve this once and for all through pragmatic means and not through means that are defined by the size of the collective ego of you or your party members. And this is what I have to say. The solutions are right here. We know the solutions. We know that if we are democratic enough and we give the headmasters and those who run the schools and those who are experts in running the schools for so long the chance, they will create pragmatic solutions that will ensure sustainability.
Now, the Senior Manager and Group Corporate Affairs Director of Golden Star Resources, Gerard Osei-Boachi, also took his turn, and he wants government to pay attention to the correctional centres at the prisons.
Mr. President and the Interior Minister, first of all, I'd like to congratulate the people you've put in place, the Director General, the officer in charge of the correctional centres, who are doing so much with very little. But on that note, the Interior Minister should request and vote funds into improving the facilities that are there for correcting these boys or correcting these inmates, particularly the juvenile prisons. It is very, very, very important that these facilities are resourced and financed throughout the time that they exist. And mind you, if we think that our kids are not in the correctional institutions and that it doesn't matter, these kids are going to grow up and hang out with our kids who have received the best of training in future, and they'll be leaders of Ghana. Imagine what will happen. And this letter is copied to all good-meaning Ghanaians because we can get on board and support the improvement of these correctional programs in the prison.
Excerpts from the People's Agenda on the Joy FM Super Morning Show. You can catch all the details on our YouTube channel, also on myjoyonline.com. Now, a whole lot has been said about the dead and the activities inside the morgue, some of which we find amusing and others way too frightening. But is there any truth in what many of us have come to believe to be actually true? As the world celebrates Workers' Day today, General Secretary of the Mortuary Workers Association of Ghana, Richard Kofi Jordan, tells some of the mocked stories on Joy Prime.
Let me pick one from the north, but I will not mention the facility. It's fine. He's a chief. He died, and it's like he was brought to the mortuary. They brought him to the mortuary, and the fridges went off.
All the fridges
went off. The light went off.
They had put him already, or they had just
brought
about
him,
to.
Laid him down, put him into the fridge. Psh, the whole place off, but there were lights around.
It was just there.
Just mortuary. There. So they removed him. Then the light came on. They put him back. It went off. They did that about 5 times. So one of them who came, the daughter also said, my father said he didn't want to be in the he shouldn't be sent to the mortuary at all. So they had to take the body back. That is one. One, I'll tell you, Accra here. I will also mention Accra here. The body changed.
Changed how?
The body was brought to the mortuary. The day they were about to pick the body, changed to a different human being. I've said it all.
But people, when they...
And the family could not bury.
No,
because the fact is
Jordan,
not... Yes,
before you continue, people, when people die and they put them in the mortuary for a period of time, there's a bit of change, right?
It's not that type of change.
Okay.
We know the type of... You see, where you don't have teeth, or let's say you have teeth, then all of a sudden you don't have anything.
Okay.
Well, he gets to share his first day at work experience with us as well.
Do you know what baffles me? I don't know how come light off. I don't know what happened, but light off and then it will go.
That night.
And let me tell you, normally night we do a lot of embalming in the night.
Okay.
When the situation is a little calm, people work. We do a lot of embalming. We preserve bodies a lot in the night. And that particular mortuary master is the worst mortuary I've seen. In fact, you see clothes, keys, everything mess up.
It was a private or
no government? I mean, private people are serious-minded human beings who are in business. They do their things well. For us, we think that everything is government is the opposite. So I was like, and there are many bodies in there. When you turn here, it's dead body. You turn here, it's dead body. You look at the fridge, it's dead body. Radish. Can I manage this thing? But because I felt like, well, if I don't do it, what am I going to do? If I fail this one too, then I'm in trouble. Once a while, you be in the mortuary, light off. And many of our generators are ready. When there's even light off, they don't have petrol. Sometimes you'll be walking and you see a flash, as if it's a human being coming, but it's just a body that has been, embalmed and laid, against the wall. It's not an easy place. Is this work? My personal view, it is for those who have the stomach to take all things.
Wow, that's the Secretary of the Mortuary Workers Association of Ghana, Richard Kofi Jordan, celebrating the work that they also do. But it was a freestyle showdown last night on Joy Prime's music reality show, Cues and Lyrics. If you missed it, all the 12 contestants displayed showmanship and exceptional voices to wow the judges. Here are excerpts from this week's edition of Cues and Lyrics.
My own, the time is nice.
Thank you.
And it's gonna work if you work hard at it. So won't you have to sing? Hey, this song's a freedom.
You did very well, but I think you can do better.
We got one life. We living, careful how you leading. I like. Try wash away all the tears from my eye. Count them. You use the stage well. Corona cold.
Rappers no mabano. I like your voice.
Oh, you'll be mad.
And Tregan, for a second time in a row, emerges the judges' favorite for the freestyle edition of Cues and Lyrics. Don't miss the edition of Cues and Lyrics. It's always on Sunday evenings. But remember to also catch the repeat of the show on the Joy Prime channel later today. It's a holiday, and so you get to catch the whole freestyle edition of Cues and Lyrics. Also on YouTube, on myjoyonline.com. All the details are right there. And that's how we end today's edition of the Midday News. You're on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. It is better to convert the National Cathedral to a national hospital. That's according to the TUC. And also it's time for a serious discussion about how we can support our local banks. And 2 bodies recovered from the Volta Lake. And also Stoneboy's 5th dimension reviews and unwillingness to slow down. You can read that and more on myjoyonline.com. We have Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil up next. I am